Hi, so today I'm going to be discussing my Reader's Theater script and then the book that I chose for it, why it's appropriate for the age that I chose, and the ideas behind my staging and performance that were cited from the Aaron Shepard article. So the picture book that I chose to do my Reader's Theater on was called I Want My Hat Back by Jon Klassen. I chose this book because it's a very easy read, and it's really great because there's only like a few characters in the book, and on each different page the main character, which is the bear, will ask a question to the other animals and they'll just answer. So I thought it'd be really easy to make into a Reader's Theater, kind of make it my own but still stay with the main story for this book. So the age that I chose for this book, when I looked this book up, it said it was from ages like 4 to 8, so kindergarten through second grade. And then when I typed up my Reader's Theater script, I thought it was a little bit older. So I don't think it would be appropriate for kindergartners, but maybe like first on up. I did put ages from like 5 to 10. I know I'm working at Kids Inc. for the summer, and I know some of my kindergartners would be able to read through it and they would be fine, but they might not understand the content, so I would probably do like first on up. And I know that some of the older kids would still enjoy it as well because it is kind of a funny story. And it has a very funny ending, and I know the kids would completely laugh when they get to that part of the story. So that's kind of the age that I would do. Why is it appropriate for this age? I know, speaking from experience, I think the students that I'm working with now would love this story. It's almost relatable, but not obvious, I guess I would say. So the theme that I kind of chose for like this story is being honest, being polite, and being respectful. The students that I have in some of my classes at Kids Inc. this summer have been having issues with being polite to one another, saying kind things. So I think this story would be really great because the story is about a bear who loses his hat, and his friend Rabbit actually stole it from him. So he goes around to different animals asking, have you seen my hat? Have you seen my hat? And then Rabbit finally realizes, oh, I took his hat, I shouldn't have. So as he's going to apologize to Bear, Bear actually eats him. So he never gets a chance to apologize. Rabbit is gone, and Bear gets his hat back. So I think it'd be a really unique story to teach students. We need to be nice to our friends. We need to be polite and respectful. We need to ask them if we can borrow their things so they don't feel bad and we don't hurt each other's feelings, because obviously Bear's feelings were hurt and he acted out and he ate Rabbit. Obviously that wouldn't happen in real life with our students, but it would still have a similar outcome where feelings would be hurt and, you know, friends wouldn't be friends at the end of the situation, whatever may happen. So I think it's kind of a good theme for all students, but for younger students as well who may be struggling with those types of concepts. So I'm just going to go through, I have some notes that I have written down about the different ideas for staging and performing this script. And I got all these ideas from the Aaron Shepard article that we read online, so I just wanted to say that straight off. So for the roles, I decided to take all the characters from the book, and then I also added a narrator. I was going to do just all the characters from the book, but I thought it needed kind of like a background and almost a narrator to switch in between characters, so it wasn't just all the characters talking all the time. So that's how I decided on the roles. And then in Aaron Shepard's article, he said that there could be more than one narrator. I put just one narrator in this story, and I only put it was for like 10 students, so if like each student has like one role, but I could also add like another narrator, because the narrator has quite a few lines, so I could split that up into multiple narrators if I wanted to include more students, but it would just depend on the situation. So for the format, strictly for my script, I used large readable font for students. I used size 12 Verdana, I believe it's pronounced. So I used that kind of font. I used 1.5 paragraph spacing. And then I used 1.5 inch margins on the left side of the paper because he mentioned if we wanted to bind the script into like a binder or a notebook or something, then they would have, they would have the space to do that. So I just included that on my script as well. And then all the other margins are just 1 inch. And then I also added a header that has the title of the script and then the page numbers on it, just for the student's reference. And then I did use stage directions by inserting emotions for how the students should either read the line or what action they should do. So I didn't have a lot of actions per se in my script, but I did have like facial expressions that the students would do. So like one line I have for the bear, in parentheses and italics, I put frowning. So then when the student reads the line, they would be frowning. So then we can understand that the bear is sad and that's how they're feeling. And then I also bolded the role tags so then the students could easily separate who is speaking and then what their line is. And then I did include the end at the bottom so the students know when to stop reading, and I chose for the narrator to read the end out loud, so then everyone is aware that's when the ending is. And then, so we're moving on to staging style, so how I would have all the students sitting and how I would have everything set up. So I would have them arranged in a semicircle with their scripts in the hand, and I would have them facing the audience. And then I also thought it would be really cool, Aaron Shepard talked about using like stools. So if that was available to me, I would have all my students sitting on stools. If not, probably just on their classroom chairs, which would be fine too. But I thought it'd be really cool if they were all sitting on stools, so it kind of be more of like an intimate feel, kind of like not everyday classroom situation, rather than if they were sitting in their classroom chairs. But obviously that just depends on the situation. And then I'd also have their scripts either kept in a binder or folder, so it kind of looks more formal rather than just holding up like a piece of paper. So like having it in a binder so it all looks like, you know, they have the same thing, very formal, so no one could like read through the page or anything, or like from behind if they were facing the audience. And then for the setting, it's going to be set in a forest. The narrator is going to explain that like in the first line, so everyone would know what the setting would be, but I don't necessarily think that I would make props or do anything to enhance the setting. I would like the students, mainly the audience, to have a picture in their head, so having this scene unfold in front of them with all the students reading and talking out loud. But I would like them to like have a picture in their mind of if these students were these particular animals and characters in the forest, what would their forest look like in their mind. So I don't want any posters, like nothing behind the students, because I want each individual student to have a different picture in their mind and make it more personable. So I probably wouldn't have students like move around, the students that would be in the reader's theater that would be presenting to the audience. I wouldn't have them move around. The only person that I would have move around would be the bear, because the bear throughout the story goes from animal to animal as he's going through the forest and says, "Hi, have you seen my hat?" They have an exchange. So what I would do is I would have the bear go to, so like the first animal he visits is the fox. So whatever student is the fox, I would have the student that's the bear, walk over to the fox and say, "Have you seen my hat?" They would have their exchange and the bear would go from place to place. So all of our animals or all of our characters would be sitting on stools, but their bear would be like walking from person to person while reading the reader's theater to the audience. And then I would have each student at the very beginning introduce themselves as the character, so then students would know exactly which character is which. Perhaps even making like some type of like paper hat that each student could wear and that has their character on it, so then as the story progresses the students don't lose, because there is 9 different characters, 10 including the narrator. So I just don't want students throughout the whole production losing sight and trying to remember who each character is, because I mean, it is mentioned, like when Bear goes up to each animal, he'll say like, "Have you seen my hat, frog?" Fox, "Have you seen my hat?" So he does mention it, but I just think it'd be easier for students because then they would have a visual as well as being able to listen. And then at the very beginning, I would have the narrator share that they all live in the forest, so they would share what the setting is. They would share the title and then the author of the story, and then probably the preview, which is in my script, and it just says, "Bear loses his hat and looks all over the forest to find it." So I would just have them read that so we kind of have some background before jumping into the Reader's Theater. And then, as I mentioned before, the narrator will say the end, so then everyone knows when to stop reading, and that the Reader's Theater is over. And then I would have everyone close their scripts. They would stand up and they would all take a bow at the very, very end. And then talking about reading, the students reading the Reader's Theater script. So I would have each of their parts highlighted. So whoever be playing bear, I would have all the bear lines highlighted. Whoever's playing the squirrel, I would have all the squirrel lines highlighted, so they would easily be able to see exactly where they're reading, exactly where they need to be at a certain time. And then I think I mentioned this before, but parts that need to be acted out, or like facial expressions or anything that they would have to do, I do have it italicized and in parentheses before each line, so they know exactly what they need to be doing before they're reading or while they're reading. And then before starting, I would remind students to look up often and not focus so much on their scripts. I want them to be able to connect with the audience, so the audience feels like they're not just reading off of a paper, but they are telling a story orally, so that everyone needs to listen, so making eye contact and making it funny so students are interested as it goes on. And then I remind students to talk loud enough so all of my friends could hear, and to make sure all the students are following along the whole time. I would also encourage the students who are reading to be the character, to connect with them. So not just having it like a paper character, but really like getting into that role of the character. How do you think this character would act if they were saying this? So really emphasizing to students, like, have fun with this, really invest yourselves, because the more that they do, the more fun it'll be and everyone would enjoy it more. And then that comes to my last point. So I would just remind students to have fun, that this isn't like a super serious thing. It's meant to have fun, and we're all meant to learn together. And I think it's a very different way for students to learn, because it can get so boring for students just to read books over and over again. So if we can read a book, but change it up in a different format so the students can enjoy it, I would love to use that in my classroom. So that was my Reader's Theater for this week's assignment.